Sierra was a hard-working, independent young woman. She had goals and dreams.
This is Sierra Jamison, a vibrant 30-year-old mother from Chicago who had her entire life ahead of her. Sadly, her life was cut tragically short when she was brutally murdered just steps away from her own home. Her family was left devastated, struggling to understand why this happened to their beloved Sierra.
Truly took a gift from God away from us, and it's beyond sad.
Who would want to harm this ambitious young woman with a bright future? And what dark secrets would the investigation uncover about her final days? The details of this case are disturbing, but before we get into that, let's go back to the beginning to understand how everything unfolded. At the time of the incident, Sierra Jamison was living in Chicago, Illinois with her 6-year-old son. She had recently celebrated her 30th birthday and was working as a phlebotomist while pursuing her dream of becoming a nurse. Family and friends described Sierra as outgoing, hardworking, and devoted to her young son. She always had a bright smile on her face that could light up a room. Her aunt, Sadina Jamison, said, "Sierra was so full of life. She worked hard to provide for her son and was determined to build a better future for both of them. She had such big dreams." Sierra's mother, Alice Jamison, said her daughter was her best friend and her everything. The two were extremely close, with Alice recently moving in with Sierra and her grandson. Despite facing challenges as a young single mother, Sierra was ambitious and passionate about her goals. She had enrolled in nursing school and was excited to start a new chapter in her life. She wanted so much out of life and was going for it, her mother said. Sierra was smart and driven. I knew she was going to accomplish great things. Just a month before her death, Sierra had a harrowing experience that would later take on a tragic irony. She was the victim of an attempted carjacking, an incident that she bravely fought off.
My thoughts are that it's I don't know why a lot of people want to target young women. I guess because we women and they don't think that we're easy to target. I guess that's the situation. I guess that's the issue, because we'll probably be more vulnerable to give up and let go or whatever the case may be.
In an interview with CBS Chicago reporter Dorothy Tucker, Sierra recounted the experience. "My Jeep, my Wrangler, that was something for a gift for myself, because I know how hard I worked for it. I know how many sacrifices I've done for my family, my son, because he's been through a lot. My son had open heart surgery. He has a disability, so he means a lot to me. And I'm not going to let this young man, with a knife at that, take anything I work hard away from me." Little did Sierra know that speaking out against violence would be one of her final acts.
No problem, they're always quiet, no problems at all. Always quiet. Good people. It's a tragedy.
On the evening of September 18th, 2023, Sierra told her mother she was going to park her Jeep in the garage behind their rental home in the Grand Crossing neighborhood. It should have only taken a few minutes, but Sierra never came back inside. Growing concerned when she couldn't reach her daughter, Alice Jamison went to check the garage around 7:30 p.m. What she found was every mother's worst nightmare: Sierra's lifeless body, partially concealed under a tarp. "I can't wrap my mind around it, seeing her in this garage like that. I am really hurting right now," a devastated Alice later told reporters. Police and paramedics quickly responded to the scene, but it was too late. Sierra Jamison was pronounced dead at just 30 years old. The medical examiner would later determine that Sierra had been strangled to death. Her bright future and all her dreams were extinguished in a brutal act of violence. As news of the young mother's murder spread, the community was stunned. Who would want to harm Sierra, and why kill her in such a personal, intimate way? Desperate for answers, Sierra's family pleaded for anyone with information to come forward. Her aunt Sadina said, "We are begging anyone who knows anything to please speak up. Sierra's son needs justice for his mother. Our family needs closure." Meanwhile, Chicago police launched an intensive investigation, combing the crime scene for evidence and interviewing neighbors and potential witnesses. Detectives learned that Sierra had last been seen alive entering the alley behind her home around 6:30 p.m. on September 18th. Her Jeep was still parked in the garage where her body was found. As they dug deeper into Sierra's life, investigators discovered something intriguing. Just weeks earlier, Sierra had been interviewed by a local news station for a story on violence against black women in Chicago. CBS reporter Dorothy Tucker, who had interviewed Sierra, was devastated by the news of her death. She reflected, she wanted to be able to say, "Let me tell people what it's like to be a black woman today," and fearful so many times. Sierra's death was the example, demonstrating the importance of us doing this story, to talk about what happens to black women. As the investigation continued, detectives worked to piece together Sierra's final hours. They obtained surveillance footage from nearby businesses and homes, hoping to spot anything suspicious. They also delved into Sierra's phone records and social media accounts, looking for clues about who she may have been in contact with leading up to her death. At first, there were few leads. Sierra didn't seem to have any obvious enemies. She was well liked at work and known as a devoted mother. Who would want her dead?
He was in a dating relationship with.
But as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered something surprising. Sierra had recently begun a romantic relationship with an older man named Lawrence Boyle. At 63 years old, Lawrence Curtis Boyle was more than twice Sierra's age. He had known her for about a decade, but their relationship had only turned romantic a few weeks before her death.
Boyle had a previous 2011 domestic violence aggravated assault with a deadly weapon arrest and was charged in March of that year. A month later, the case was dropped. Boyle was also convicted in 1993 of child abuse in North Carolina, and 6 years later was out of prison by 1999. In court, it was also revealed Boyle served 2 years for breaking and entering in the North Carolina Department of Corrections and had a 1997 misdemeanor conviction for assault on a woman.
As detectives looked into Boyle's background, red flags quickly emerged. He had a troubling history of violence against women, including a 2011 domestic violence charge that was later dropped. Even more disturbing, he had a 1993 conviction for child abuse in North Carolina, for which he served 7 years in prison. Boyle suddenly became the prime suspect in Sierra's murder. But building a case against him wouldn't be easy. Then came a major break in the case. On September 20th, just 2 days after Sierra's body was found, Lawrence Boyle turned himself in to police. In a shocking twist, Boyle allegedly confessed to strangling Sierra to death in the garage, according to the charging documents.
He thought Jamison had a gun, but when he realized she didn't, he continued to strangle her until she went limp. He took her cell phone, then covered her body with a green tarp. Prosecutors say that Boyle admitted to his ex-wife and police to strangling Jamison. The judge ordered him detained.
With Boyle in custody, Sierra's grieving family felt a small measure of relief. Her Aunt Sadina said,
"Honoring her legacy, we're honoring her life. But today we have a victory because this person has been caught. He is currently in custody."
"We are honoring her legacy. We are honoring her life. But today, we have a victory because this person has been caught. He is currently in custody. So yes, we can celebrate with a little bit of peace." But the family was also grappling with feelings of betrayal and shock. Boyle wasn't a stranger. He was someone Sierra had known and trusted for years. "This is someone she was comfortable around," Sadina explained. "This is someone she trusted, so she had no reason to fear." As more details emerged about the relationship between Sierra and Boyle, a disturbing picture began to take shape. Prosecutors alleged that Boyle had known Sierra for years, raising questions as to why he would commit such a heinous crime on her. Their romantic involvement was very recent, but the significant age gap and power imbalance were troubling. Had Sierra finally tried to end things, provoking Boyle's rage? At Boyle's first court appearance, prosecutors laid out the chilling details of the crime. Assistant State's Attorney Ann McCord Rogers told the judge,
He used his 2 hands to suffocate the life out of someone he was in a dating relationship with.
The brutality of the crime shocked even veteran courtroom observers. This wasn't a crime of passion or a split-second loss of control. Boyle had allegedly waited for Sierra in the garage, planning to ambush her. The strangulation would have taken several agonizing minutes. Sierra would have been aware of what was happening, desperately fighting for her life as Boyle allegedly squeezed the breath from her body. Medical examiners' pathologists found marks on Sierra's neck consistent with fingernails, hemorrhages near the top of her spine, as well as bruising on her tongue, further evidence of the violent struggle. It was a horrific end for a young woman who had already endured so much. Sierra had bravely fought off an armed carjacker just months earlier, but in the end, the man who took her life was someone she thought she could trust. As the case against Boyle proceeded, Sierra's family was left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. Her 6-year-old son, who has autism, now faced a future without his devoted mother. Alice Jamison, Sierra's mother, took on the responsibility of raising her grandson, but she worried about how to explain to him that his mom was never coming home. "He keeps asking for her," Alice said, fighting back tears. "How do I tell him that she's gone forever? That the person who was supposed to love her took her away from us?"
God, please help us. Help us help each other.
A large group gathered in Garfield Park on Wednesday evening to celebrate the life of Sierra Jamison.
A GoFundMe campaign was started to help support her young son, but nothing could fill the void left by Sierra's absence. Her family spoke of her infectious laugh, her determination to succeed against the odds, her dreams of becoming a nurse. As the case made headlines, it reignited conversations about violence against women, particularly women of color. Sierra's story was tragically similar to so many others. A young mother killed by someone she knew and trusted, Dorothy Tucker, the reporter who had interviewed Sierra, reflected on the painful irony of her death coming so soon after speaking out about violence. Sierra's case exemplifies why we need to keep having these difficult conversations. Her voice was silenced, just as she was finding the courage to speak up. In the wake of Sierra's murder, local advocacy groups called for better resources and support for women facing domestic violence. They emphasized the importance of recognizing warning signs in relationships, particularly those with large age gaps or power imbalances. As the case against Lawrence Boyle moved forward, prosecutors expressed confidence in securing a conviction. The alleged confession to his ex-wife, combined with physical evidence from the scene, painted a damning picture. During Boyle's detention hearing, Judge Susana L. Ortiz called his self-defense claims self-serving before ordering him to be detained. She stated, "There is absolutely no evidence that this victim was armed. What there was evidence of is he literally used his 2 hands to suffocate the life out of someone he was in a dating relationship with. He used his own force, and he did this in a way that is dangerous and presents danger to the community." If convicted of first-degree murder, Boyle could face life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Sierra's family, it would be a small measure of justice, but nothing could truly make up for their loss. Alice Jamison said, "I want this man to rot in prison for the rest of his life, but it won't bring my baby back. It won't give my grandson his mother again. We have to live with this pain forever." The tragic story of Sierra Jamison serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerability many women face, even from those closest to them. Her death left a void in her family and community that can never truly be filled. Sierra was more than just a victim. She was a devoted mother, a hard worker with big dreams, a survivor who had already overcome so much adversity in her young life. She deserved so much more than to have her life cut short in such a brutal way. As the legal process unfolds, Sierra's loved ones are determined to keep her memory alive. They speak of her bright smile, her infectious laugh, her unwavering love for her son. "We want Sierra to be remembered for how she lived, not just how she died," Sadina said. "She brought so much light into this world in her 30 years. That light may be gone, but we'll never let it be forgotten." Sierra Jamison's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the ongoing epidemic of violence against women. Her voice was silenced just as she was finding the courage to speak out. Now, it falls to the rest of us to continue that fight in her name. For Sierra, for her son, and for countless other victims, we must keep pushing for a world where women can live without fear. A world where bright futures aren't extinguished by senseless violence. A world where mothers like Sierra get to see their children grow up. It's too late for Sierra Jamison, but in sharing her story, perhaps we can help prevent other families from experiencing such a devastating loss. Her light may be gone, but her impact lives on. What do you think about this case? Let me know in the comments section. And if you found this video interesting, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories.